they're no longer going to be providing disclosure on their subscriber numbers as well as on ARPU starting in the first quarter of 2025. And I think what that really signals is that this company is transitioning into this more mature phase. I mean, you know well, investors in the market likes transparency. And anytime you reduce disclosure, it really kind of causes a lot of uncertainty, a lot of anxiety.
If it's entering a more mature phase, Geeta, does that mean that this thing can no longer be priced as a growth stock, that the era of adding on huge amounts of subscribers, growing like gangbusters, that's over? And so this repricing in that scenario makes sense.
So, there are a couple of different things here. I think with the whole streaming wars and the media landscape as a whole, I mean, there has been kind of this shift away from this hyper focus on just subscriber growth. I mean, there was going to be eventually some type of a wall or some type of a ceiling. The question was where it would be. Again, that question is still an open question, but I think what you have to remember with Netflix is, yes, there is going to be some limits to subscriber growth. I think we're going to see peak subscriber growth this year. It is going to start to decelerate a little bit. But I think what Netflix has managed to do, being a first mover in this space, is really scale and operating leverage. And we're seeing that in the profitability metrics. We're seeing that in the operating margin. We're seeing that in the free cash flow. And they are just way ahead of their peers. And so I think, yes, valuation might have to take a little bit of a more modest kind of approach, or has to be maybe a little bit more cautious here. But at the same time, I mean, this is a very different company from your traditional media company, because most of them are still losing money on their streaming business. Meanwhile, you have Netflix generating close to about $9 to $10 billion in profit this year with a 25% operating margin.
Yeah, just amazing what they've done there in terms of getting to profitability, which begs the question, Geeta, how about, you can be a very profitable streaming company. We see that with Netflix. Do you think the Paramount Pluses of the world, the Disney Pluses of the world, all the other pluses out there from the media companies, can they get to a similar level of profitability too? Because right now, as you mentioned, the streaming business has been a money loser for most of the traditional media companies.
Yeah, so exactly to that point, Paul, last year when Netflix reported about $7 billion in profit, all of these other streamers combined reported the exact same amount in losses. So they lost about $7 billion. And, it's going to be a little bit different story for each one of them. I don't think all of them can necessarily get to profitability. So Disney is almost on the cusp of profitability. They're probably going to break even in a couple of quarters. They have all the levers in place to kind of really make it a very profitable business. Of course, it's going to take them some time to get to the levels of a Netflix, but they definitely have the formula. When it comes to a Paramount, I think that's going to be a completely different story. The company is still losing money. It will probably lose about $1 billion, $1.2 billion. Plus, they have too many other distractions going on. Mm-hmm. With Warner Brothers Discovery, yes, they did turn a slight profit last year with, Max. But, Paul, you really have to kind of look at this in the context of the Warner Brothers Discovery business. I mean, HBO in its heyday, this is HBO, which is basically turned into the streaming business. In its heyday, was generating $2 billion in EBITDA. And last year, they reported $100 million on their streaming business and EBITDA. And, if they want the street to be excited about that, I'm not so sure, investors are going to be too happy. So they're not going to be able to get to the level of profitability, and definitely not going to be able to get to it in the time frame that investors are hoping that they would.
So Netflix might have won the battle there, but Geet, the one battle that seems yet to have been won is who's the dominant sports streaming place. You have Netflix with the WWE Raw deal, and then you have this other platform which we heard be announced earlier in this year, which, to be honest, I feel like I've heard nothing of since, the ESPN, Fox, Warner Bros. Discovery. I don't even think we still know what a name is. We don't know whether it's going to happen, whether Congress will even allow it to happen. How is that shaping up in terms of who becomes the go-to player to watch all of your live stream sports?
Yeah, that really is the question right now. And Danny, you kind of really hit the nail on the head there. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with, the joint venture, the ESPN, Fox, Warner Brothers. In the meantime, Disney has also said that they will take ESPN standalone over the top in 2025. But in the meantime, you do have all these tech giants kind of making a play for sports, right? Amazon, I think, to date has been the most aggressive. They have the Thursday Night Football package. They've now introduced ads on their service. They have a lot of the football content from Europe. So, they're definitely making a big play. And as you mentioned, Netflix too, I think the big thing that we are kind of really watching out for is this July 20th event where they're kind of dipping into live sports a little bit with the Mike Tyson versus versus Jake Paul, and that kind of then gives them, I think, allows them to gauge a little bit, what the appetite for live sports is. Because remember, again, WWE is a little bit of quasi sports. It's more what they call sports entertainment. But it's going to be interesting to see whether they really want to go go really aggressive with sports. I think if they want to build their advertising business, I think it is a critical piece that is missing for them right now. And so there is this chatter and this speculation about whether they're even going to be this dark horse bidder for the NBA negotiations that are currently ongoing.